It's a crisp autumn morning in Vancouver, the kind where the fog clings to the harbor like a reluctant goodbye, and the first rays of sun pierce through, turning the world gold for just a moment. You're rushing to work, coffee in hand, when your phone buzzes with a notification that stops you dead in your tracks. Breaking: BC liquor stores shut down, Canada in crisis. Your heart sinks. Not just because it's your local store, the one where you've grabbed a bottle after tough days, but because in that instant, you feel the ripple, the jobs vanishing, the shelves emptying, the quiet unraveling of lives you never even knew were tethered to those fluorescent-lit aisles. What if this isn't just about booze? What if it's the thread pulling apart the fabric of everything we hold dear? Stick with me through this story, because by the end, you'll see it's not the end at all. It's a beginning. And if this hits home, if it makes you pause and think about the hidden heroes in your own life, hit that like button right now. Smash subscribe, turn on notifications, because stories like this, they remind us we're all in this together. Let's dive in. Our story begins, not in the boardrooms of Ottawa or the sterile halls of provincial legislatures, but in a small, weathered liquor store on the outskirts of Kelowna, British Columbia. Call it Evergreen Liquors, a place that's been more than a business for 40 years. It's the kind of store where the bell above the door jingles like an old friend's hello, and the air smells faintly of oak barrels and regret, mixed with the sharp tang of new paint from the last renovation. Behind the counter stands Maria Gonzalez, 52 years old, with laugh lines etched deep around her eyes and hands calloused from decades of stocking shelves. Maria isn't just the manager, she's the soul of the place. She came to Canada from Mexico in the 90s, chasing dreams of stability for her 2 kids, trading fiestas for frostbitten winters. Evergreen was her anchor. Her proof that hard work could build something lasting. Every morning, she'd brew coffee in the back room, strong and black, and chat with her staff like family. La vida es corta, she'd say, but the good times, we make them last. Across the counter, day in and day out, was Tommy Hale, the 28-year-old stock boy who everyone called Kid even though he hadn't been one for years. Tommy grew up in the shadow of the Okanagan Valley's vineyards, son of a grape picker who drank too much and dreamed too little. He dropped out of high school at 16 to help with bills, and Evergreen became his unintended classroom. Maria taught him more than inventory counts. She showed him how to read a customer's eyes, spot the ones nursing heartbreak with a six-pack, and offer a quiet word instead of judgment. "You're worth more than the labels on these bottles, Mijo," she'd tell him, ruffling his hair like he was her own. Tommy lived in a cramped apartment above a laundromat, sending half his paycheck to his mom in Penticton, who was fighting the bottle in her own way. He dreamed of opening a food truck someday, slinging tacos with a twist, local craft beers paired with Maria's family recipes. But dreams like that felt as distant as the Rockies on a hazy day. Then there was Lena, the regular who made Evergreen feel like home for half the town. At 65, widowed for a decade, she was the librarian emeritus of the local library, now retired and filling her days with crosswords and quiet sips of sherry by her fireplace. Her husband, Jack, had been a logger, broad-shouldered and bellowing, who loved his Scotch neat and his stories tall. After he passed from a heart attack mid-chop, Lena found solace in the ritual, a bottle every Friday, not to drown sorrow, but to toast the man who made her laugh till her sides ached. She'd linger at Evergreen, swapping book recommendations with Maria, teasing Tommy about his fancy taste in IPAs. "Life's too short for bad pours," she'd wink, her voice carrying the lilt of old maritime roots. But beneath the banter, Lena carried a weight, the isolation of empty nests and echoing houses, the way grief sneaks up like fog off the lake. It was a Tuesday in early October when the news broke like thunder over the valley. Maria was midway through her morning shift, humming an old ranchera tune while alphabetizing the whiskeys, when her phone lit up with alerts from every news outlet in the province. Government mandate, all Crown-owned liquor stores to cease operations indefinitely. Economic restructuring amid fiscal crisis. Her stomach twisted. Crown stores, government-run like Evergreen, were the backbone of BC's liquor distribution, employing thousands, funding community programs, even supporting addiction services ironically enough. The announcement cited ballooning debts, supply chain snarls from global trade wars, and a push for privatization that politicians swore would modernize the industry. But modernization sounded like code for layoffs, for shuttering doors that had swung open for generations. Maria's hands trembled as she scrolled. 80 stores across BC, including hers, set to close by month's end. No severance details yet, just vague promises of transition support. She thought of her mortgage, the one she'd refinanced last year to send her daughter Sophia through nursing school in Victoria. Sophia, 22 and fierce, with her mother's fire and her father's quiet strength, divorced when she was 5, but he'd send postcards from his trucking routes across the prairies. And then there was Mateo, her 19-year-old son, still finding his footing at community college, majoring in environmental science because he wanted to save the lakes his grandpa fished. How do I tell them? Maria whispered to the empty store, the bell jingling mockingly as Tommy burst through the back door, out of breath from his bike ride. "Boss? You see this?" Tommy thrust his phone forward, his face pale under the scruff of his beard. The screen glowed with the same headline, memes already cropping up, cartoons of maple leaves wilting without their rye. Maria pulled him into the back room, away from the security camera that felt like an unblinking eye. "It's real, kid. All of it." They sat on milk crates amid boxes of untouched Merlot, the air thick with the scent of cardboard and cardamom from Maria's lunch thermos. Tommy's voice cracked first. "What about Ma? She counts on that check I send. And you, Sophia's graduation next spring." This was supposed to be steady. Maria wrapped her arms around him, the way she had when his dad skipped town years ago. "We'll fight it. Petitions, unions, whatever it takes. But first, we keep showing up. For the people who need us." Word spread like wildfire through Kelowna's tight-knit veins. Lena heard it from her neighbor over morning tea, the cup slipping from her fingers to shatter on the linoleum, a porcelain echo of her fracturing world. Jack's photo watched from the mantel, his grin frozen in time, and she wondered what he'd say. "Buck up, love. Storms pass." But this storm felt biblical, the kind that floods basements and washes away foundations. She drove to Evergreen that afternoon, the streets unusually quiet, as if the town itself held its breath. The parking lot was packed, not with customers, but with staff from neighboring stores, faces Maria knew from supplier fairs and holiday parties. Hugs turned to huddles, whispers to plans. Lena pushed through the door, bell jingling like a war cry, and found Maria behind the counter, a legal pad scribbled with talking points for a protest. "Lena, mi amiga," Maria said, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Sherry on the house. Last one before the apocalypse." Lena shook her head, sliding onto a stool that had borne the weight of countless confessions. "Not today. I came to say, this place saved me, you know. After Jack, Fridays here were my church. The ritual. The talk. If it goes." Her voice trailed, eyes glistening with the unshed tears of a woman who'd learned to cry in private. Tommy emerged from the stockroom, arms laden with flyers he'd printed at the library, bold red ink screaming, "Save our stores, save our jobs." He slid one across to Lena. "Join us. Rally at the legislature next week. We're not going down without a fight." For the first time in years, Lena felt a spark, not the numb glow of sherry, but the fierce burn of purpose. "Count me in, kid. For Jack. For all of us." As the days blurred into a frenzy, the crisis deepened, rippling beyond BC's borders like a stone skipped across the Rockies into the prairies. In Ottawa, pundits debated on cable news, graphs spiking like heart monitors in distress. Privatization advocates crowed about efficiency, lower prices, more choices, but they glossed over the human cost. In BC, 2,500 jobs hung in the balance, many held by immigrants like Maria, single parents like Tommy's mom, elders like Lena scraping by on pensions. Suppliers, small wineries in the Okanagan, distilleries crafting gin from glacier melt, faced bankruptcy without the Crown's steady orders. And the communities? Liquor revenues funded everything from youth sports to rehab clinics, a bitter irony in a province wrestling with opioid shadows. Canada, the polite giant, suddenly felt small, it seemed straining under the weight of forgotten corners. Maria's home became command central, her kitchen table a war map of emails, petition signatures, and half-eaten empanadas. Sophia drove up from Victoria on a whim, her scrub still wrinkled from a night shift, eyes wide with that millennial mix of outrage and optimism. "Mom, this is bullshit. We're viral already, #SaveBCLiquor trending nationwide." She paced, phone in hand, live-streaming strategy sessions to her med student friends, turning personal pleas into digital thunder. Mateo, quieter, sketched protest signs in the corner, his artist's soul channeling fury into fists clenched around markers. "The lakes are dying from drought," he said one night, voice low, "and now this? It's all connected, greed poisoning everything." Maria watched her kids, this patchwork family she'd stitched from scraps, and felt the first crack in her resolve. Doubt whispered, "Who are you to challenge the machine?" But then Tommy texted, "Ma's rally speech? Gold. We're 500 strong tomorrow." The rally in Victoria was a sight, a sea of red and white, signs bobbing like buoys in a storm. Evergreen's crew caravanned up, crammed into Maria's old Subaru, singing off-key to CBC radio to drown the nerves. Lena rode shotgun, a thermos of spiked cocoa passed around like contraband. To Jack, she'd toast at stoplights, and they'd echo, voices hoarse but harmonious. At the legislature steps, thousands gathered, bartenders with shaker tattoos, vintners in plaid, families clutching photos of lost jobs. Maria took the mic, her accent thickening under the spotlight, hands gripping the podium like a lifeline. "We are not just stores. We are neighbors. We pour dreams into glasses, listen to heartbreaks over hops. Shut us down, and you shut down the stories that make Canada whole." The crowd roared, a wave crashing against marble walls. Tommy, offstage, live-tweeted every word, his follower count exploding as shares crossed into Alberta, Saskatchewan, sympathy strikes brewing in liquor leagues nationwide. But rallies are sparks, real fire needs fuel. Back in Kelowna, the challenges mounted like winter's first snowdrift. Suppliers cut deliveries, shelves thinning to echoes. Customers trickled in, not for bottles, but goodbyes, hugs over the counter, IOUs for futures uncertain. Tommy's mom called one evening, voice slurred through tears, "Kid, I can't make rent." "What now?" He drove to Penticton that night, rain lashing the windshield, pulling her into a diner booth for black coffee and brutal honesty. "Ma, this bottle? It's not Jack's ghost. It's chains. Let me help you break M." For the first time, she nodded, fragile but real, a pact sealed over pie. Meanwhile, Lena faced her own ghost, the library called, offering part-time shelving to fill the void. "It's not Evergreen," she told Maria over tea, "but it's pages. Stories. Maybe that's enough." Maria squeezed her hand. "It's more than enough. It's us, rebuilding." The crisis peaked mid-November, a cold snap freezing the valley in place. Privatization bids rolled in, corporate giants sniffing profits, promising jobs that were gigs in sterile warehouses. Maria's union rep delivered the blow, negotiations stalled, closures imminent. Despair settled like frost, thick and unforgiving. Sophia, ever the fighter, organized a blockade, staff chaining themselves to Evergreen's doors, media helicopters whirring overhead. Tommy stood sentinel, sign reading, "This store built me, don't tear it down." Lena read poetry aloud from a milk crate, verses of resilience from Atwood and Ondaatje, her voice cutting through the chill. Protesters chanted, neighbors brought thermoses, and for a day, Evergreen pulsed with life louder than ever. In the quiet hours, as dusk bled purple across the lake, Maria confessed to her family around the kitchen table. I came here for better. For you. But if we lose this. Sophia interrupted, fierce, we won't. Look outside, Canada's watching. And she was right. Petitions hit 1 million signatures, crossing provincial lines. Alberta's Liquor Board threatened solidarity strikes. Ontario MPs tabled emergency bills. The crisis, born in BC, had awakened a national nerve, the shared ache of communities fraying at the edges, the realization that progress without people is just plunder. Resolution came not with fanfare, but a phone call on a grey Tuesday dawn. The Premier's office, reversal. Partial privatization, but with safeguards, job protections, revenue shares for locals, a hybrid model blending old soul with new skin. Evergreen would reopen under co-op ownership, staff like Maria at the helm. Cheers erupted in the Gonzalez kitchen, Mateo whooping as he hugged his mom, Sophia filming the tears for a victory post. Tommy got the call en route to his mom's AA meeting, first one together. We did it, kid, Maria said later, unlocking the store's doors for the first time in weeks. No. You did. You all did. Lena was there at opening, sherry in hand, not for drowning, but celebrating. The bell jingled, customers flooded in, but it felt different now. Deeper. Tommy's food truck dream. Crowd-funded overnight, tacos launching spring fair with Evergreen brews. Sophia graduated top of her class, toasting with virgin margs. Mateo led a valley cleanup, linking clean waters to fair work. And Maria? She hung a sign behind the counter, La Vida es Corta, but together, eternal. As the fog lifts over Kelowna, Canada breathes easier, scars reminding but not defining. This wasn't just about liquor, it was about liquidity of spirit, the flow of connection in a world that commodifies everything. We rise not alone, but linked, in rallies and recipes, in quiet confessions over counters, in the jingle of doors that refuse to close. So here's your call, in your life, what's the evergreen you're fighting for? Share below, like if it moved you, subscribe for more tales of triumph. Because in the end, the real crisis, forgetting we're the cure. Thank you for joining this journey. Until next time, stay connected, stay inspired. Fade to credits.